Welcome guys to my review of Wolfman. I've just got back from it. We're, what, 11:30 at night, so this will be going out past midnight now by the time I've got to edit it. Look, I can't wholeheartedly recommend this film. I tweeted my first reactions to this, which I do whenever I watch a film. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. H Reviews. And I just said, yeah, very underwhelming film. Really, really quite underwhelming. So there's a lot which is technically really good about this. And then there's a lot which is like, I don't know, just really bad, to be honest. Like a lot of it was quite bad. Like dumb stuff. Certainly not reflective of the budget that they had. So we'll dive into this review. Hit subscribe if you're new here, or indeed you're a returning viewer and you've not yet subscribed. This movie stars Julia Garner, Christopher Abbott. Leigh Whannell makes a cameo as well. It is directed by Leigh Whannell. God damn, yeah. So, what was good? The sound. Sound is good. They do a fantastic job with the sound. That's not really saying much when you're looking at a film like this. You know, the sound is decent. They play off the sound quite well during all the transformation and stuff like that. There's a heavy play on sound, but it doesn't really factor into it as much as the effort they've spent crafting the sound. So they spent a long time crafting great sound, but doesn't really factor into it that much. So you're like, okay, that was dumb, but fine. So what's the story? Anyway, let me just get to the story, shall we? We open in the past. Okay, it is Blake, played by Christopher Abbott, and his father in a remote place in Oregon. And they're in the forest, and you get the impression that, you know, Blake's dad is a little bit strict, I guess, but not untowardly so. There's a little bit where they're in the forest of Oregon, going hunting, and his father's trying to tell him about mushrooms that could kill him, and you know, he's like, you need to listen to me because otherwise, you know, you're gonna die out here. Like, it's my job to keep you safe. And you're like, yeah, that's perfectly reasonable. That's fine. Maybe I grew up with stern parents, I guess. I'm just of a different era. You can tell by the white in my beard. That seemed perfectly fine. And then at another point, there's a deer. They spot a deer, and Blake's father's getting ready to, you know, he lines it up in the sights of the gun. And then Blake wanders off, and you're like, what the fuck are you wandering off for, mate? Super bizarre. But anyway, his father finds him again, and he's like, whoa, you go away from me, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, obviously, yeah, definitely don't wander off in the woods. That's perfectly reasonable to tell your boy off. I think that's perfectly fine. But they're playing up like he's overly strict, and he's not a nice dad, and, you know, he's giving his son trauma, and you're like, well, that's perfectly reasonable, to be honest. Like, the boy walked off with a gun in the forest. What if the boy, Blake, had accidentally shot his dad? I mean, there's so many things that could have happened. What if a bear got him? What if a wolf got him? There's so many things that could have happened. What if he fell down into a ravine? Perfectly reasonable for his father to be like, no, don't just wander off. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, from there, we get our first introduction to the Wolfmen. It is an infection, but it's not an infection, and I'll get to that in a minute. I don't really understand it, to be honest. They're playing up an element of some supernatural stuff there, but not. And this comes over in the intro. There's like a shot in, you know, in 1995, a backpacker, a hiker, was lost, and it said that he got an animal-borne virus. Blah blah blah. Some random things. Face of the wolf or something like that. And you're like, all right then. So he's just become a wolf man then, I guess. Whoever it was. But yeah, we got our first taste of the Wolfmen, and that's it pretty much in the past. There's like a little bit where they're like, oh, they're holed up in a deer trap, like a watch out thing. And then the Wolfman's just about to get them, but then they don't. And you're like, okay, cool. I guess. Sure, fine, whatever. Anyway, then we flash forward to the future, and it's adult Christopher Abbott Blake being a dad, and his daughter. I don't know where they are. I'm presuming it's like New York or something like that. It's a big, massive city. His daughter's walking along those like plastic bollards that they have in the States. We've got them over here as well. She's walking along them, but immediately to her left is the road where there's cars moving. And so her dad's like, hey, can you get down from there, please? And she just ignores him. And so he says it again. She ignores him. And then she jumps down. Well, she comes down and he tells her off. But then it's played up like he was being really nasty again. I'm like, am I going insane? Are people really soft? Am I going insane? Because she could have just fallen into the road and died. Yeah, she absolutely needs to pay attention to her dad. It's perfectly reasonable. She kept ignoring him. It's perfectly reasonable for him to then have a go at her. To be like, no, look, you do need to actually listen to me. You need to pay attention. Again, maybe I'm just used to stern people, I guess. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand what the issue is. Anyway, whatever. Then we're introduced to Julia Garner, okay, Charlotte, and they have an estranged marriage clearly at the moment, and so he learns that his dad's dead. So then they have to go to his house, and he's like, "Yeah, this is going to be good for us. We'll go to my dad's ranch in Oregon, his farm. We'll pack up the stuff. It'll be good. We'll spend the summer there, spend some time together." And you're like, "Okay, cool. I don't care about these people. We spent no time with these people." And their weird interactions. It looks like there's been some weird dubbing going on over as well with Julia Garner's character. There's some like side profile shots of her talking. We don't see her, face on. You see her mouth properly. You see it a little bit moving. And it doesn't marry up with it. I don't know what's gone on with this film. There's a reason why they released this in January. I'm rambling a little bit. It's not a very good film, by the way. Obviously, I've kind of started off with that. So we're going to ramble through this. But there's definitely a reason why they released this in January. Anyway, so then they pack up and they go there, and they're like, oh, I don't know where it is. So a friend from his youth gets in the car and they're going where they need to go up to his dad's ranch, and oh my god, there's a wolf man in the road, so they steer off, and you're like, okay, cool. They crash the truck in a really like bombastic way. It's quite good sound actually. It's played as a jump scare. It's not that scary. And then he gets scratched, but that's really anticlimactic as well, by the way. So he gets scratched by the Wolfman, which presumably they have it in their claws. So yeah, that's where the virus is, I guess. I don't bloody know. But anyway, they then manage to make it to the ranch whilst this thing's following them. And then, full spoilers from here, I guess. It's not really that spoilery, to be honest. Make it to the ranch. They lock themselves in. He slowly begins to transform. And, he makes some comments about, I don't want this to scar you, to his daughter. His daughter's name is Ginger, which I think is a play on Ginger Snaps. The werewolf movies. I think. Could be. Yeah, could be a fun little nod. Anyway. So he starts to transform. The hilarious thing about the transformation for me is he starts to lose his hair on his head. But he miraculously grows a really shit beard. Like bum fluff beard. Like straggly little bits. It was quite bizarre, actually. Anyway, the prosthetics are okay. The transformation is shit. And we find out that the Wolfman that attacked him was his dad. So it's like, they're trying to bleed into this thing that, his dad gave him this disease. And you're like, it's an allegory for his temper with his kid. And you're like, but he wasn't that mean to his kid, to be honest. Pretty reasonable with his kid. That's kind of how they played it up. It's like an allegory for his temper. His dad gave it to him. He doesn't want to be that way. And blah, 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 blah. It was a bit lame. There's some tension, but what I don't understand, and let me just break it down for you. What I don't understand about this and why this film is super shit. I mean, it's pretty crap anyway. Like, it's not that scary. It's not scary. And the transformation, you're there for a transformation, and there is an element of supernatural stuff to this, right? And the reason why I say that, because the internal logic of the movie doesn't make any goddamn sense at all. So at one point, his wife and his daughter lure him into the barn and they put him in a bear trap. And you're like, cool, that's fine. He's going to stay there now, is he? No, he's not. He's going to gnaw through his fucking leg. So but it's like mid-leg. So I don't really understand what he did. I don't understand because maybe broke his bone. It didn't look like it went straight to the ankle. It looked like there was more leg on his other side. So it looked like it would have been through the bone. But what I don't get is he didn't bleed out. But they kill him in the end. I've given you full spoiler warning. They kill him in the end with a gun. So you can kill him with a gun, but he doesn't bleed out. What is this? Like, what is this logic? I don't get it. And the more I think about it, the more irritating it is. Because it doesn't make any goddamn sense. But it was really underwhelming. And at the end, his daughter's like, he's thinking that he wants it to end. So she just kills him. And you're like, right, okay. So what was this again? What was this movie? About some animal-born virus? I don't know, mate. It was a bit of shit. It genuine, like, the Benicio del Toro movie gets a lot of flack, but the Wolfman design in that is epic. And I've got to say, it's probably better than this movie. I'm not going to lie. There are technical elements of this film that are great. The sound. Some of the shots. Some of the lighting and colour grading. The blend between humanity and, so, you know, what you see as a human in the point of view, and then what you see as the animalistic Wolfman. Those visuals were quite nice. But overall, it was underwhelming and quite shit, to be honest. And we close with a shot of the mother walking down. I think she was holding the gun with her daughter. And they look out over the valleys. And you're like, thank God it's over. I'm going to drive home now. So that was Wolfman. It was... Can't recommend it. I can't recommend it. Didn't really care for the characters. They're not well crafted. They're not well written. He's played up to be like a big arsehole. Another thing, his wife comes in, his daughter's at the table for dinner, he's prepping dinner, and his wife's on the phone, going, well, I can't get this ready, and blah, 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 blah. And the dad's, Blake, is like, can you please do that in another room? And he gets ignored, and so he says it again. And then he says it again. And then his wife gets off the phone and like has a go at him. Can you not do that? And you're like, no, that's perfectly reasonable. It's perfectly reasonable to be like, could you do that in another room? You know, we're just about to eat dinner. Can you do that in another room? That's perfectly reasonable. But maybe I'm getting mental. Maybe it's not okay to tell your child off for ignoring you and doing something dangerous that could kill him. I don't know. I'm clearly from a different era. But whatever. This film with the allegory of generational trauma is what everyone kept bloody saying in their reviews. Nah, fuck off. What generational trauma of what? Being told things that won't kill you. Like, I don't see the issue. Whatever. Anyway, leave your thoughts down below if you've seen it. Take care. Bye-bye now.